However, what came through to me from the film very clearly is two things. I think one is just how much of a business it is, right? How much of a business it is in the sense that the clinic is very concerned about sort of what it delivers to the client, etc., etc. And the woman in this situation essentially becomes like the supplier. When something happens to the woman related to a pregnancy that is, not necessarily related to the surrogacy, or even in that case in the film where she talks about how she had a miscarriage at 5 months, you really see how the system breaks down and how, the woman gets converted into a supplier. The other thing that actually came through to me very much is how alienating and how boring this entire experience is for the women who have to undergo it. When they have their own children, they are in their families, in their communities, right? Like basically just living life and having a child. Here, from the clinic's perspective, what they are trying to do is give the client the best possibility of actually having a child at the end of it, right? But what it's ending up as is actually almost like 9 months of confinement for these women, right? So they're completely bored, they're completely disconnected from sort of life, family, just from everything. So I frankly felt like just at the very human level, that it was, like it's a very alienating sort of experience. And I think that's one of the things we need to look at in terms of how can we make this experience better. The other very big question is, of course, the money. In all these systems, right, we always see that it's the sort of the company which gets paid the most. The agent gets a fair sort of a sizable amount. And it's actually the woman who's putting her body through all this for 9 months who gets a very, very small share, which I think comes through to some extent, right? Yeah. So I think these were some of the sort of thoughts that came up. And if we were to juxtapose this film with the 3 films we saw earlier, I think the question would really be that in the first 3 films, you really see the state telling you how many children to have, what your reproductive sort of choice framework should be.
Yeah, this was actually the most difficult film I've done for many reasons. One is that it was one of the very few commissioned films that I had. I had a very short time period. A film like this, typically, I would want to do over a year, if not 2, if I could push my luck. But here I had few months. I did not think it was going to be difficult because when we were doing our research, we were able to meet a lot of women and get a very, very textured, full narratives on the whole process, what it means for the women to go through that process. None of them at first go said, we will not speak to you on camera. Some of them said no to camera, but were okay with audio recordings.
I thought that was something which was missing in the film because that was definitely required. The fact that it is not legalized at all, and the fact that there are no, like you all spoke about contracts being signed, but actually at what point there was nothing at all in the film about that. So I thought maybe that can be added at some point.
So yeah, I could have, today actually I wondered whether I should have, because the film came from within the campaign, one didn't sort of get into articulating what was the reason why the film was made. 2 years later, you're right, a small note at the beginning or the end, because it continues to be a proposed bill. There is still no law.
And maybe statistics, like data is definitely available, which you can...
Data is not available, and that's something that I felt I should have put as a text, because none of the clinics, one of the biggest issues that I have with this entire business is that the clinics are systematically not keeping any records. So, you have a mega industry that's getting a lot of push by the government that is being allowed to operate with absolutely no accountability. So there are no statistics.
Did you come across any situation where the child after it's born, if it's not okay, do the parents not take it? This is not on your film, but does it ever happen?
And wanting more payment is not the only thing she wants. So that was really, for me, the most scandalous issue. So in fact, I started researching on contracts all across the world. So in North America and Canada, commercial surrogacy is legal. It's not in many places in Europe. So I read a draft contract in Canada that basically was scripted by the surrogate, where she decides if the commissioning couple can contact her, can call her up, can meet her, can send her gifts, can talk to her over the phone, and she decides whether the couple can be, you know, white, mixed couple, gay couple. She decides what that couple should be. She decides after delivery, does she want to be in contact with them, for how long? You know, that is the contract to think about. And I actually tried to visit lawyers and ask them to draft a contract on behalf of the surrogate as a fictional piece. That was what I thought I would do because I had no footage. And the question I could not communicate it to the lawyers. This one just stopped and said, oh wow, that would be so good. He couldn't say anything beyond that. The other lawyers did not understand the question. I thought I had sort of lost my power of language because it was so absurd.